Good Friday morning. We made it to the end of the week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Gulf Coast Weather Solutions, meteorologist Johnny Lively. And here is our new radar that we have. We switched the background from more of the darker to the black that we had, now more to a gray, kind of matching our satellite and model data. That way it all kind of blends in together. But you can kind of see the lakes and the bodies of water a little bit better since we switched it up. But good morning once again. Not much going on the Tamco Live Doppler radar. We see some birds or some bugs kind of waking up with us as the sun came up over there with the Houston radar. But other than that, pretty calm and quiet Friday morning. Very humid and muggy, but that's what we feel this time of year. We zoom out, you can still see that areas of some heavy rainfall going on in portions of the Texas Hill Country. This is a little bit further north of where Kerrville was. They saw the heavy rainfall yesterday and really since Monday, but this is actually going a little bit just north of their area. But you can see at least some isolated areas, another 4 to 5 to 6 inches of rain so far this area, or so far this morning out there in those areas. Look how wet it has been just in the last 6 to 12 hours. Very calm over here, but over there it is very active. And this is actually their last day for some pretty active heavy rainfall, and then they start getting more so into a drier pattern as high pressure starts building in. There's been some pretty bad flooding out there towards the west and portions of the Texas Hill Country. Not much going on though this morning. You see the temperatures is very warm and muggy, pretty much into the middle to upper 70s, and the closer you get towards the coast and the Gulf, you're already into the upper 70s to pretty much the low 80s to already some areas approaching the mid 80s. Thanks to our sponsor of Silsby Ford. Get you one. This brings us to our outdoor and construction forecast. Somewhat kind of similar to what we saw yesterday. We have transitioned away from the widespread, numerous, locally heavy rainfall and all that. Now we've transitioned into a summer-like normal pattern. Mostly hot, mostly dry. In the afternoon, we get a chance for some isolated showers. Maybe we get an isolated storm. I think a lot of this will be north of the I-10 corridor. But again, we are probably going to be more, I would say, more hot than anything today. If you get any relief from the heat, it's going to be this small isolated shower or storm. We'll talk about that here in just a second, showing the Futurecast. But thanks to Modern Concrete letting us know what's going on this Friday. Saharan dust, if you look towards kind of the sunrise or sunset, you can see a little bit of a haziness, especially now that all the rain's gone. You can really see this. We'll see this dust kind of here, not only today, but through the weekend and even into early next week. This is what's kept the tropical Atlantic and the tropics quiet here in the Gulf as well too. But we do have an area at the National Hurricane Center. We've been talking about this kind of off and on all week. Remember that old weak frontal boundary? It has pretty much pushed into portions of the eastern Gulf. This possibly will help an area of broad low pressure try to develop and really in the next couple of days. I don't think this is going to be anything tropical. If it does get a name tag from the National Hurricane Center, it can be a tropical depression. But the biggest story is bringing lots of deep tropical moisture for the eastern Gulf, mainly into portions of Florida, and even can cross over into portions of the Carolinas into the weekend, into early next week. And we'll talk more on that looking at the Futurecast by Switch Electric. You can see that high pressure builds into our region this weekend. That's what's making the main headlines here, hot, dry, and you can see that the showers and thunderstorms out west finally are kind of dwindling, moving more to the Mexico general region. But you can see high pressure really kind of takes over our weather pattern this weekend. All the showers and thunderstorms, again, look over there towards Florida. That's where that area of low pressure will be. They can get the chance for some locally heavy rainfall off and on this weekend, even into early next week. And then look at this. Tuesday into Wednesday of next week, that's probably one of our biggest ridges we've seen. This is an area high pressure that really builds right over the plains into the southern plains. Do we finally continue somewhat of a drying trend? This could be our longest drying trend we've seen this summer. Not only this weekend and a good portion of next week, maybe we get all the way into next week with no rain. We'll have to see, but that's a pretty strong high pressure ridge building into the southern plains. Going to keep us pretty hot and dry. Again, atmospheric moisture, you can see that we are definitely drying out. All of the deeper and rich moisture is definitely further towards the east, over there towards portions of Alabama, especially Florida, and even Georgia and the Carolinas can get this. By the time we get into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, maybe a little of this moisture kind of gets here on Wednesday, enough to give us maybe 5 to 10% coverage for a passing shower on Wednesday into Thursday. But again, we just showed that area of high pressure building into our region. I think we're going to be pretty hot and if not pretty dry dry for a good while. But we'll see. We'll see how this pans out. Again, today, this is our best coverage really the next 5 to 7 days. You got 10 to 20% coverage really for the Golden Triangle region, Beaumont, Port Arthur, Orange. And then north of the I-10 corridor, I think we can get up to 20 to possibly 30% coverage, like the Woodlands, Conroe, maybe the Lakes region. Those areas could see some of those little bit better storm coverage today. So again, here we are, mostly dry. A shower can pop up between now and sometime between now and lunch, but it's not until this afternoon that we get the heat of the day. Let me move out of the way that you see the moisture, the heat of the day. Maybe we get a couple isolated storms over there in southwest Louisiana, and then over here towards Woodlands, Crosby, getting into the Huntsville, possibly into the Lakes region. But we'll see how all this pans out, just showing that the rain coverage today is pretty limited, just around 10 to 20% coverage, possibly north of the I-10 corridor, could get up to 30% coverage. And again, the afternoon high temperatures, it's going to continue to keep warming up and heating up. You can see that we're going to get into the low to mid 90s, some areas approaching the upper 90s down towards the coast, upper 80s to the near the 90-degree mark. 30% coverage for Houston, 20% coverage for Beaumont, a little bit better coverage for the Lakes region, and 10 to 20% coverage for southwest Louisiana. Thanks again to our sponsor of Silsby Ford. Get you one. Then overnight tonight, it is sticky, muggy, and humid into the mid, pretty much to upper 70s. The closer you get to the Gulf, you can pretty much be into the upper 70s to low to mid 80s. And our Southeast Texas 7-day forecast is pretty much hot and mostly dry. Chance of rain is not that high today. And again, all of that moisture is going to be well to our east the next 3 to 5 days. Maybe we get a little splash of it on Wednesday and Thursday. We might get 5 to 10% coverage, but right now it is looking like a July summer pattern. Definitely is setting up for us as temperatures get into the mid-90s. Some areas, a lot of areas, possibly getting into the upper 90s. Heat index going to be the main story the next 5 to 7 days. Same thing for southwest Louisiana. We've got 10 to 20% coverage this afternoon for a couple isolated showers, maybe an isolated storm. But other than that, we are getting ready for the heat, and it's going to continue to keep getting warmer, especially as we get into early to middle of next week. We'll watch and see if Wednesday and Thursday can bring a little bit of moisture in from the east, but we'll have to see. High pressure could build in by Tuesday and Wednesday and keep on that dry trend. We'll see. But thanks again for tuning in to the Gulf Coast Weather Solutions Show, the AM edition this Friday. Y'all have a good Friday. Stay warm. Stay warm. Stay cool. It's going to be warm out there. It's going to be hot. Stay cool out there. If you do get any showers, stay dry. But again, the rain coverage today is pretty limited. Have a wonderful Friday. Have a good weekend. Stay cool. Wear lots of sunscreen, especially the kiddos. If they're going to be swimming this weekend, it's going to be hot. But y'all have a good Friday. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning on the Saturday Morning Show.
Gulf Coast Weather Solutions is sponsored by...
We don't know what the weather is going to be like around here. I do get really anxious during storms.
That's why they chose HailGuard. When performance leads, confidence follows. Backed by the first and only asphalt shingle system with a hail warranty.
That just gives us more peace of mind.
This is the only asphalt product on the market that has the manufacturer warranty targeting the hail damage, and it gives me a lot of confidence as a contractor.
Engineered for enhanced impact performance. Built to protect homes and reputations. HailGuard shingles. Built for hail.